Good evening. I'll call to order the November 7th, 2022 meeting of the Arvada City Council. Call upon Councilmember Lauren Simpson.
Please join me for a moment of silence. And now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kristen Rush, if you'll do the roll call.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Here.
Councilmember Marriott.
Here.
Councilmember Mormon.
Here.
Councilmember Simpson.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
We have the minutes of October 17th, 2022. Any changes or corrections? Seeing none, they will stand approved as submitted. Mr. Marriott, will you lead us off on our recognitions tonight?
Well, thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to have Peter Kazura come up to the microphone. Peter is a property owner in Old Town and also a member of the Business Improvement District Board of Directors, and I am very fortunate to get to present this proclamation for small business Saturday here in Arvada. So let me read this proclamation, Peter, and I'll bring it down to you. The government of Arvada, Colorado celebrates local small businesses and the contributions they make to the local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 32.5 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 60% of net new jobs created since 1995, and small businesses employ 46.8% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 79% of consumers understand the importance of supporting the small businesses in their community on Small Business Saturday, 70% report the day makes them want to encourage others to shop small, independently owned retailers, and 66% report that the day makes them want to shop small all year long. And whereas 58% of shoppers reported that they shopped online with a small business, and 54% reported they dined or ordered takeout from a small restaurant, bar, or cafe on Small Business Saturday in 2021. And Arvada supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, the Mayor and City Council of the City of Arvada, Colorado, do hereby proclaim November 26th, 2022 as Small Business Saturday and urge residents of Arvada to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. And it's dated the 7th day of November 2022, signed by Mayor Williams and all members of Council.
City Council and Mayor, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. My name is Pete Kazura. I'm the president of the Business Improvement District, and on behalf of the Business Improvement District and all local Arvadans that like to keep it local, we thank you so much for all of your support. In addition to that, looking forward to everybody coming out on that day. There should be some good festivities in Old Town. And thanks everybody for the support, and we'll keep it rolling as long as we can, as well as we do. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it.
Next, it's my distinct honor to call Mr. Mark Deven to the podium. So, many of you know that we were originally set to recognize Mr. Deven on October 3rd when it was his last Monday at City Council. And his lovely wife, Shelley, chose that day to have a little health issue that it was much more important that Mr. Deven be with his wife, and showed appropriate responsibility, and the fact that he was retiring even greater responsibility that you chose to be with your wife rather than at your last city council meeting. And I know it was difficult for you not to be here with us, but you made the right choice, Mr. Deven.
Thank you, Mayor.
So with that, I have the distinct honor to be able to present the following proclamation. I'll make some comments, and then the rest of the council may or may not chime in as they wish. Whereas Mark Deven has had a distinguished 41-year career in public administration, including service to multiple communities in California and in Arvada, Colorado, and during his career, Mark worked for several public agencies in California, including Lakewood, Newport Beach, Anaheim, Concord, and Woodland, California. And whereas in 2011, Mark was appointed city manager of the city of Arvada, Colorado. Mark was responsible for the leadership, policy development, and management of the city, consisting of 728 employees and an operating and capital budget of $263 million, serving a population of approximately 125,000 residents. And whereas Mark has led the Arvada team through the development of a 10-year financial model that creates an environment where the city can look currently and 10 years ahead and understand the implications of financial decisions. Mark also implemented a strategic planning process for the City Council and the Arvada leadership team. And whereas Mark envisioned that the city of Arvada could win the Malcolm Baldrige Award, and in 2017 the city was awarded the Foothills Award, and in 2018 the city was awarded the Timberline Award. The city has been recognized as a top workplace each time the city participated, which has helped the city attract new employees, retain employees, and is a part of the overall city desire to be an employer of choice. And whereas in 2021 and 2022, the city experienced the tragic deaths of 2 police officers and a parks employee, Mark provided exemplary leadership to employees in the community during these tragic events. And whereas Mark has been a county and Denver metropolitan region leader and is well respected, highly collaborative, and he works in the best interests of the region. And whereas after over 4 decades of dedicated and loyal public service, Mark Deven is retiring. Now, therefore, the Arvada City Council, on behalf of the entire City of Arvada family, wishes Mark Deven and his family the very best in the future. And it was dated October 3rd, 2022, signed by myself, all members of City Council. And let me lead it off by indicating that I had the great fortune of being on council when Mr. Deven was hired. He was an excellent choice for the city at that time and remained so throughout his years of service to the city. Mark and I had a working relationship that I think was second to none. And he made me a much better mayor, and I know that he made each member of council a better member of our city council and helped us develop the attitude that we have, that we're here for the citizens of our community. We work well with each other. We respect each other. Mark has also had the great pleasure of being able to laugh at my inappropriate humor at times and recognize that while we take the work we do very seriously, we don't always take ourselves too seriously. But his passion for this city, for the city team that he built, his leadership team that he put together, is second to none. And I think that we all recognize that, while we up here in the elected seats are viewed by the community from time to time as the leaders of the community, it's truly the CEO, the city manager, and the city manager's team that really do the day-to-day work for the city. And as Mr. Marriott has said in the past, there's no greater responsibility for a city council than in choosing our 3 appointees, the manager, the judge, and the city attorney. And we certainly made the right choice when we brought Mark Deven into this community. So thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Moran.
I believe Councilmember Simpson was before me, Mayor. I'm happy to let her go first. All right. I guess I'll start us off, but I'm privileged and honored to do that. Mr. Deven, Lisa and I, of course, are newbies to this group, and I'm very thankful for your leadership and bringing us on and And I could not be happier with how you really welcomed us to be part of this. Really, we're a family, and so I really appreciate how you, with open arms, welcomed us and really shepherded us in that process, and greatly appreciate that. And also to add to the accolades tonight, I think, recognizing you really are the captain of a ship when you're the city manager. And there's a lot of storms you have to wade through, and then of course there's the calm waters you want to get to. And so while we wade through a lot of storms with you, very recently, of course, some very traumatic to our community, and I really appreciate you being at the helm to lead through that. And then I remember my most fondest memories of working with you actually were when I was on the ASAC committee, and you coming and really helping us through dealing with a difficult issue for the community. And I thought that the staff and your leadership were just par excellence for that. So I really, really appreciate your assistance and aid through that. So thank you so much, and I hope for many calm waters in your retirement.
Thank you, Councilmember Mormon.
Ms. Simpson?
Well, thank you. So, Mr. Deven, I mean, what is there to say? I would challenge anyone to a duel about who has had a wilder first 3 years in office than maybe I have had. It's been nuts, but I can tell you what was consistent, and that was you. You were a mentor and a friend. And sometimes, you would have to be a little bit of a director and be like, okay, this is why we need to focus on this, because you always had the best interest of the city at your heart and of our residents at your heart. And I can't tell you how much that has meant to me, and I know how much it's meant to all of us. Your leadership, especially with the senior leadership team, who we all come to know very well, it's exemplary. This team is really united. We can see that, and we can see how well they all work together, how much they all care for each other. It's not lost on us. And I hope you know that that's a reflection of the tone you set and the environment that you built. And it really makes this just such a wonderful place to be day in and day out. I talk to my colleagues sometimes in other cities, and they maybe don't enjoy being on the city council as much as I do, as much as we do, because they don't have that same fostering of friendship and family that we do here. So thank you for building that. Thank you for leaving that legacy for all of us, and I look forward to seeing you when you're not responding to like 2 a.m. emails and I have to yell at you about that. I would literally send him emails and say, don't you dare respond to this, and he would respond saying, okay. So yes, I look forward to you getting a long overdue, hopefully restful and invigorating retirement, and seeing you in the community, because I know you're not going anywhere, and I am very glad of that.
Thank you, Councilmember Simpson.
Mr. Jones?
You won't remember the first time I met you or you met me, but it was at your very first AIDA breakfast. You were only a couple of weeks in, I think, when that happened in that first October of your employment. And I was just a business owner in the city of Arvada. And I remember listening to the mayor introduce you to the group and looking at you thinking, oh my word, this has got to be kind of a huge hill to climb for someone coming in new to the community and new in this role in this community. And then kind of seeing you in action, it was very clear then that you had a good grasp of what you were getting yourself into and bringing your family to. But most importantly, it was clear then, only a couple of weeks in, that you absolutely loved this place that you now call home. And then fast forward a couple of years when I decided to run for council, you invited me in as a candidate into your office and made me feel, as others have said, like even though you're a candidate, it doesn't matter. Here I am, I'm open to whatever questions you might have. And then you went as far as to say, and if you need to talk to anybody on my team, just let me know. And so you were just so open to the fact that you worked for the community and you worked for the betterment of the community. And I appreciate the fact that your family allowed you to do that for these last many years. And thank you for letting him come to my town hall meetings at night. And he says that he wanted to be there for me, but I think he wanted to be there so I wouldn't say something stupid. But you, I mean, as Lauren said, you're just, you're Johnny on the spot. And you didn't let a lot of grass grow under you. And so I just appreciate the opportunity I've had to work with you over these last few years and to be your friend. And you truly are a great friend. And we miss you already, but we're excited for you and what's to come. So thank you for everything you've done for me and for the community.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Marriott.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Deven, I'll take you back, too, to the first time I met you as well, was shortly after you were hired in 2011. I was actually serving on the Board of Adjustment, and I was really taken aback and impressed that the new city manager would take an evening after work hours and come to a Board of Adjustment meeting to sit in, not to critique us at all, but to just meet all the citizens who were active within the community and doing stuff. And I think it was a little window into what Mr. Deven's future held, which was the absolute consummate professional, cared about every detail, and had a great capacity to be involved in everything, however, not be micromanaging anything. And I think you balanced that over your career here at the city better than anybody could imagine. When I elected to run for council, I also remember how helpful you were to me to sit down and provide me with the city's budget and be available and willing to answer any questions and all questions that I had, and for every candidate, even those who weren't successful. After I was elected, I was really impressed how you seemed to give equal attention to everybody's issues and ideas, regardless of sometimes how maybe unwise they were. And I remember when one of the times I had a conversation with you in response to the number of fireworks complaints we were getting over the 4th of July, and I suggested, well, maybe we ought to just legalize fireworks, and then people have nothing to complain about. And Mr. Deven actually took that seriously, and we talked about it. Later, I even proposed, after a citizen request, that we insist that cats all be put on leashes. He also produced a memo, which I still have on that, and my other subsequent attempts to legalize almost everything. But seriously, Mr. Deven, you have been so helpful to me personally. You've certainly advanced my abilities. I have learned very, very much working with you and your team. Mostly, though, you really advance the interests of all the residents and all the citizens of Arvada and have made this truly a special place to live. And for that, we can never thank you enough. And I, too, look forward to getting to spend a little time with you outside of your job now that you're retired, and really looking forward to it. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Marriott.
Mr. Pfeiffer.
Well, I'm not going to, everything that everyone's saying up here is spot on for me. So I'm not going to echo the same things. And I don't want to shadow what I said at your retirement, because it was genuine and it's what I felt.
Right.
But I will highlight a few things that shows what kind of character you are, and very positive. So my first day, if we're going to talk about first days, because I started a month after he did on council, and it was 48 hours after I was elected. It was that quick, and it was Chris Koch, Chris Staley, and Mark Deven in their office. When they do the come meet me city management, is more to what you can't do as an elected official. I don't know what he said, to be honest with you, at all. I don't remember that day very well, because I was still figuring out what the hell I just got elected. But, it was a great opportunity. It shows how much you cared about the trajectory of our success, to make sure that you were there, you gave us that trajectory. And, I think I wouldn't be where I am today without your support, our passionate conversations, our bouncing ideas. I've consulted with you a lot of times, like, should I do this or should I not do this? Or I'm really furious about this. I need you to pull me off the ledge. And you did that. And it didn't need you to do anything except just be that shoulder that I can lean on to help me through some of these. Because one of the things that I think I struggled with the first few years is not to say the F word on the microphone, and things go slower in the city. You taught me to slow down. I think of Dot Miller too. She had that struggle as well. But to slow down and go through due process and have community and stakeholder engagement. And I think that led into, I thought I would stay with my one company forever, but you led me into public service, and that's where I serve the state. And I think where I see the value of what you do for our community is what I do today and what I've done for the state. And I think you've helped me get there. You helped me understand what that means to be a public servant. And I think the team has noticed since I've worked for the state that I become more of an advocate for them more than anything, because I understand the blood, sweat, and tears that every employee that works for the government puts in every day. You are going to be missed. I mean, but the good part is you left an awesome staff, and you are great with succession planning, and that's a great leader. When you know that one day you'll leave, that you leave it in good hands, and you know that it'll be taken care of because you're still a citizen here too. So, yeah, and a neighbor.
Yeah.
And I hope too that, outside of here, like the rest of us, we go grab dinner one night and break bread like we always want to, and maybe have a few drinks too. But, we're proud that you left us Lori, and that you put a great candidate in front of us that you helped groom and coach, and you've left us in a really good spot. I was sitting up here thinking, man, I'm still here and you're not. And I think of Kathy Hodges, the city manager of Lakewood, and you all have heard this before, but she used to say, hey Bob, we're the B players. You know why? Because we'll still be here when you're gone. But I almost feel like I'm still here, and I'm the B player. And it's a weird role to be here and spend. Now that's only 1/4 of your time, but you definitely left a mark on my political career. So that's all I have, and hopefully we get together soon.
Thank you, Councilmember Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Lisa Smith?
So one of the things that I wanted to recognize is that for you to do this work, it takes your family too. And I just wanted to recognize Shelly, the kids. I'm not sure which one of the kids.
They're all here.
They're all the kids.
They're all my kids.
Wow, that's a lot. Well, I just wanted to recognize you all too, because he sacrificed so many meals, so many events, so many games, and we appreciate that you shared, your father and your husband with us. And so I just want to really acknowledge the family in addition to your work. I mean, we all know you're great. We're singing your praises, but I also don't think that you would have been such a great leader and example had it not been for your family. And I just want to acknowledge that. 40 years is just crazy to think about how much time you spent away from the family. So I do appreciate you all, and your commitment to public service is an example that I hope that I can continue to follow. So thank you for showing me at least a small glimpse of that in my year with you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
Ooh.
Mr. Deven, would you like to have the final word?
Hey, Mayor, real quick, one last thing. We did performance-based budgeting, and that was not in your proclamation, but you brought that to us, and I don't think it was, because we didn't get a copy of it. It was top secret stuff. But you brought that to us, and I wanted to make sure I highlighted that part of your career, because I think that's put us where we are today, is your focus on the 10-year budgeting and performance-based budgeting. Sorry, I wanted another bite at the apple. And you kind of got rid of the line item budget for us council to look through.
Yes.
And those are huge monumental successes.
Yeah, not every council member I served with was happy about
No,
that.
Mr. Allard is still screaming right now,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
right.
Mr. Deven?
Thank you. Mayor and council, thank you so much for everything you said. I don't even know that I can add anything. What really all of you highlighted was that we all worked together very well. We all collaborated. We all respected each other. We all valued each other. And that working relationship that we had, that working relationship translated to how the leadership team worked with the city council, and ultimately how the entire city team worked with the city council and with the community. You empowered us to be able to do that by the relationship that we cultivated together. And Lauren, you talked about talking with other council members. I talk with other city managers. Well, I used to talk with other city managers till about a month ago, and I would tell them about the working relationship that I had with all of you, and they accused me of lying. They called me Disneyland or kind of thing. I mean, they just really didn't believe it. I told them they had to believe it because it's true. And I believe everything that you just said is embodied in what we all accomplished together by working together. Everything that you said and talked about, this leadership team that's right here, that you're still working with, and especially Lori and Linda and Don as the city manager's office leaders, that team, this team, and the rest of the people that support them was what accomplished everything that was accomplished. And I am so proud of being able to work with them and serve with them for the time that I did. That and I'm just so pleased that you were able to see the selection of Lori Gillis as your next city manager as the best option, which will carry on this great, unique, and productive culture that we've been able to build over this time. I do want to acknowledge my family and my wife, Shelley. Can you stand up or wave or something? My son, Corey, and his girlfriend, Carlina. You guys wave. Daughter, Chelsea. Son, Tyler, and his wife, Deven. And they were, Lisa, thank you for recognizing them, because their ability to and their patience with me, and my wife, Shelley, she agreed to move halfway across the country to a community that we had never even visited or been to, for me to take this challenge on. And she's been a champ the whole time, every single day. So thank you. And with that, I don't want to, this has probably gone on too long. This has almost been the longest goodbye in the history of Arvada. So with that, I just thank you very much, and I'm sure we will see each other again. Thank you all very much.
You can leave now if you want.
Yeah. This is really weird, by the way.
The one with me in. Yeah. Okay, next we have a presentation, third quarter financial presentation. Mr. Archer.
As usual, the finance stuff clears the room. So. I hope you all clap when I'm done. No, thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to come speak to you. Deb Nielsen and myself will run through the third quarter financial report. So we're excited to report that we are still doing well from a financial perspective. Revenues are trending positive, as they have been through the year, but we'll talk a little bit about what inflation is doing to that. Expenditures remain in line with the budgets, as the team is doing a wonderful job of managing those. As we've talked before, CIP continues to be a major challenge. Inflation is certainly hitting that area the hardest. And maybe we're not quite heading into a recession. If you remember last time, we talked a long time about a technical definition of a recession, which meant 2 quarters. And if you followed along, the third quarter GDP was actually positive at 2.6%. So that means for the year, we're sitting at a positive 0.4% for GDP. So the estimated return for fourth quarter is a negative 0.2%. So actually for the year, they're expected flat GDP. Again, that's on a national level, not at a local level, but is what people point to. So if we take a look at the Fed funds rate, we spoke about this last quarter, and you can see that we're just now getting to the average, which is usually around 4%. You are probably well aware that the Fed raised short-term interest rates 75 basis points at its last meeting last week. That puts us at an average or the guardrails of 3.75 to 4.25. They're expected to raise it one more time in December, end up the year at 4.25 to 4.75. That is significantly higher than the 0 to 0.25 we were 1 year ago. Inflation, you can see, has spiked in comparison. It did come down a little bit at the last reading, so we're sitting at 8.2%. Nothing to get excited about, because if you take a look at this chart, a chart we stole from our financial advisors, you will see what's causing the most significant growth in inflation is energy. We're heading into our coldest months. That means our citizens are going to feel this very soon. And then our next biggest cost driver here in Arvada is food. And those are our two highest factors that feed into the growth of inflation. You will notice that shelter is up there and carries a significant weight. That is your home, and that is going down or flat. And so inflation will come down in the next quarter, but significantly, or the majority of that is caused by the reduction or the flattening of housing prices. And so if you dig a little bit deeper, inflation is going to be around for a while. We like to show this every quarter. This is City Council's required fund balance goal for our general fund of 17%. As you can see, we're significantly over that number. A lot of that has to do with CARES Act money that we're still working on getting out and dollars that have been identified for capital projects that are still coming out. And so this number will drop down in the next few years. If we dive deeper into our general fund as an overview, we'll talk a little bit more about what inflation does to revenue. So if you take a look at the overall revenue growth on general fund, we're up 13%. That's a very good number. But if you pull inflation out of 8.2% and you pull out some one-time building revenues of about 3.8%, our growth year over year is just under 1%. We usually average between 2 and 3, so we're not growing organically like we have. Nothing to get excited about yet, just some numbers that we want to share with council. If we run down the list, property tax is up 10%, but that was our budget. We were expecting that. Sales tax, 9.8. Auto use, 1.7. General use tax, negative 13%. Court revenues, down 15%. Remember, courts is not a revenue generator. It's a service. And so I'm just sharing that with you. We're not saying we should charge more in courts or anything else, just reflecting that we're down. Building revenues up 114%. That is related to 2 large commercial properties that kicked off at the beginning of this year. Interest revenue up 1%. We'll talk more about that here in a bit. Personnel still positive. A lot to do with our inability to hire team members, specifically in the police department. And then we did put a monitor light on the other expenditures, and we talked already about this. Inflation, inflation, inflation. Let's jump into sales tax, 9.8% overall increase. You'll notice it's a little more colorful than it has been in the past, where we've got a monitor light on our supermarket and our hardware, negative light on restaurants, limited service restaurants, which again, these are drive-throughs or what we call fast casual, and then still negative light on our liquor stores. If we dive a little bit deeper into that, this is our chart by our NAICS codes. You will see that supermarket and grocery stores are up 3%, which is nice growth. But again, if you factor an 8% inflationary factor into that, that means technically they're down 5%. Wholesalers are doing quite well, and they usually do quite well when we enter a recessionary environment, up 10%. Again, the biggest growth continues to be in our e-commerce. Our electronic people shopped electronically during COVID and have continued those practices, and so we've continued to see growth there. Full-service restaurants are doing well. Hardware store, flat. And then we talked a little bit about power. Same piece of information, just reversed, so you can see the growth pattern from 2017 to 2022. Again, I want to point out the electronic shopping in 2017 at 900,000, today at 5.9 million. So again, that is the majority of the growth that Arvada has experienced for the last 6 years. Some of the other categories you will see went down a little bit during the COVID time periods, have recovered. Specifically, if we take a look at full-service restaurants, quite a large drop from 2019 to 2020, and then has returned back in 21, and then significant step up in 22, as people wanted to get out of their homes and enjoy some of the offerings we have in the city.
Brian, question on the liquor sales. And now that grocery stores have full-service beer, and some actually have wine.
Yep.
Candelas. Are those included within the grocery store numbers, or are those included in liquor store numbers?
They're included in the grocery store, so
So
that's a
there
very
may
good
be some
point, Mayor.
shift that.
Yes,
So we're still drinking Hardy, we're just buying it elsewhere.
absolutely. The other thing I'd like to point out, if you remember, liquor stores were considered essential during COVID.
They
And
certainly
so people
were.
had access to that,
Okay.
where they did not necessarily have access to a restaurant. And so some of the liquor is also being consumed in a restaurant now,
Okay.
where before it was being consumed at home. When speaking to some of our liquor stores, they're still doing fine.
Okay, good.
If you take a look at the numbers, you'll see they're really, really small. So 1,089,000 to 1,075,000 to 1,056,000. So on the aggregate, you're not talking about a lot of money.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to turn over to Deb, and she's going to dive into some additional items.
Good evening. The first item I have is auto use tax, and as Mr. Archer mentioned, it is showing a 1.7% increase over last year. We expect this category to meet budget and maybe be just a little bit ahead of budget at the end of the year. We're continuing to see a shortage in new cars, and the price of used cars are continue to be elevated, leading to this continued increase in this area. The next item is general
Is that-
use.
I'm sorry, is that what the colors mean? Because I didn't see a legend for the colors.
Those are each month.
Each month?
Yeah,
Okay. So January's at the bottom? I'm sorry.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
The next item is our general use tax. We are seeing a decrease of 13.1% in that area. There were larger tax returns from several businesses last year compared to this year. We do not expect this category to meet the budget for 2022, and we are continuing to monitor that. And again, the colors are each month. An overview on some other funds. There is a monitor on community development for revenues that's due to grant funding. The team is actually reviewing programs and strategy in that area to be able to utilize those grant funds and receive grant funds and get them out in the community. Capital Projects has a monitor or a warning on expenditures, and that's due to all the increased costs that we're seeing in our capital projects. Wastewater has a monitor on expenditures and year-to-date as well due to our projects and, again, increasing costs. The bond issue that we will review later tonight will help offset that.
These are showing as positive for wastewater.
They are positive, but we put them as yellow just to let you know that we are monitoring
Okay.
them because we are seeing increases there as well. Stormwater, we have a monitor on revenues. We have that on there just because we have discussed that we need to look at increasing fees there on a more consistent basis. And with the increase in rates for 2023, that will come off of a monitor. And then risk management, we have a warning on expenditures, and that is because the increased costs that we are seeing in claims, in workers' compensation, also some liability and property claims, and then also an increase in insurance premiums in that area. So we are continuing to monitor that as well. Do we have any questions?
I think we're good for now.
Okay, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Archer.
Oh, actually, Mr.
One question on the
Jones.
general use tax. Is that because more people are working from home and employers aren't buying as much stuff?
That could very well be. I mean, we are really monitoring that and trying to look and see exactly where that's being generated from that decrease.
Thanks.
Thank you, Deb. I will add to that, use tax is usually a sign of investment by businesses back into their business. And so really, we're trying to understand, is that not happening because of what you used, or is that a sign of things to come? Sometimes, historically, that's a precursor to a recession, because businesses are saying, I can get by with using what the pieces of equipment I have for longer. We're not thinking that's the case, but we're diving in right now. We'll have something for City Council hopefully in the next few weeks on that specific item. So if we take a look at investments, I will apologize in advance. I provided our city clerk the wrong slides for the next two. Now these ones are correct, but if you are looking at this either through a downloaded packet or one that was online, these next two slides were from the prior presentation. So that was my fault. I was in a hurry to get to New York last week, so I apologize for that. If we take a look at our portfolio, you will notice that our investment percentage is down a little bit from our outside managed portfolio, and it is up on our inside managed portfolio. This is exactly what we would expect in a rising interest rate environment. Our outside portfolio is an actively managed portfolio. They have the ability to sell and buy items. So what they're doing right now is rolling off the lower valued interest rates and buying higher values, but that forces them to sell investments at a loss. So what happens is, as interest rates go up, the value of an investment goes down if it's paying a lower value on it. I know that's counterintuitive, but that's what happens. And so they sell at a loss today, but they buy for a greater gain down the road. We don't do that here at the city. We hold to maturity. And so as interest rates rise, we will still gain 100% of that value, and we will see a slower growth in the future. So the city portfolio yield will actually be less longer than the outside managed portfolio. Over the next few quarters, you will see that change. And if you want to know more about that, we can talk later, but that is why you're seeing that. Overall, our portfolio has grown. Again, that is related to the borrowing of the money for 72nd Avenue and Ralston Road, and still working through those projects, and then the dollars received from CARES Act. So as we spend those dollars, you'll see our portfolio balance go down. And then the final item is related to the approval from council for us to buy A-rated investments. And so you remember last month, that showed about $9 million worth, and that was specifically Toyota Motor Corp and Bank of New York Mellon. But you can see that has grown significantly this quarter due to the risk that has been applied by our different rating agencies for investments that we had in our portfolio already. So reflecting those, you'll see that we've grown to about $21 million that sit at either an A, A-, A+. There are two investments, one with American Express and one with Citigroup, that have been rated BBB+, and those will roll off in the next cycle. So about 8% of our overall investments. You would ask, why would we invest in something rated at this level? We do get a better return. So they have to pay us a little bit more for our money, and that's why we would invest in these items. Hopefully, if you look down this list, you don't see anything that jumps off the page or gives you any concern. These are all very, very large companies, and they are very secure. So there's a very quick recap of our financial situation for the third quarter. Any questions?
I don't see any other questions. Good presentation.
Okay.
Thank you both for that. And
Thank you.
Keep us solid. Next, we'll move to public comment. I've got three individuals who have signed up. First, Nathan Adams.
Hello, good evening. My name is Nathan Adams with Red Tea Homes. I think some of you might remember me. We're here for a rezone of 14760 West 64th Avenue, Howard Ranch, not long ago, back in August. Here to speak on the tap fees. I came a couple of weeks ago when the conversation happened, and I I didn't say what I wanted to say when I came up because I understood the changes that were being made to be grandfathering in projects that were already in process, and I was mistaken in what I learned. Another week and a half or so went by after council. We learned through our planner that application didn't quite mean what we thought it meant. We had a full development application in. The real estate market's changing. The change for us in tap fees, they're almost doubling, if not doubling. $748,000 is the hit to our project. We've been planning for basically 20 months. It was 20 months ago that we put the project under contract, had rezoning applications in April of 2021. You might remember from when we were here for the rezoning, we postponed our city council meeting twice. We had 7 iterations of a site plan, significant community engagement, and all of that lost time is going to result in a $748,000 increase for us. In addition to that, with community engagement, we made a lot of concessions, whether that was a reduction count in units, paying for a significant fee to have emergency access, numerous other things. I have very limited time, so I won't go into all of them. My ask here is to not raise tap fees on projects that are in the queue at any stage of planning. Puts our project at risk, further suppresses housing inventory at a time that it's much needed. Developing housing's a risky venture. Entitlement process is long. Supply chain issues, labor, materials, change in rates, recession, inflation, economic change, all of those things are out there. All of those things that we're up against. We bought the land for hundreds of thousands of dollars into the entitlement process. This makes a messy situation for us. Raise capital, raise equity, all of that changes. It's a more challenging time for us as developers in my 18 years of doing this. So my ask as you work through finalizing this, that you grandfather in the projects that are already in the planning process. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, Riley Dunn.
Hi, I'm Riley. I just have a few words about Nancy Young, who passed over the weekend. I first met Nancy Young on March 1st, 2021, at the first Arvada City Council meeting I ever attended. It was my 4th day reporting for the Arvada Press. She called the paper a glorified shopper, but wished me luck that maybe I could help turn it around. To me, Nancy personified all of the things that make Arvada special. Her passion for history was quite literally contagious. She attended and took meticulous notes at every city council meeting and lots of other meetings, as I'm sure you guys are aware. Her attention and care for details made you appreciate all of the finer edges of things. More than anything, Nancy loved Arvada with all of her heart. The last time that I saw Nancy was a few weeks ago when I ran into her in Old Town. She had standing reservations at her favorite restaurants. She was easy to find. I don't remember what we talked about, but I remember how happy I was to see her, as I was always really happy to see her. Nancy's dedication to uncovering and preserving Arvada's history will continue to enrich our community for generations. Thank you, Nancy, for being a good friend and teaching me about this great city. Arvada will not be the same without you.
Thank you. And Debbie Hanson.
I just wanted to make sure you guys were all aware of Nancy also, and what an amazing lady she was, and how she knew the history of Arvada, how she was always here, and she would not, you knew what she was thinking when she told you, and I just, she was an amazing lady, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys all knew that, and if we could just take a minute to have a little bit of silence for her, that'd be great.
Thank you. We'll have some comments about Nancy as we conclude the meeting tonight. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We had 4 items on the consent agenda. The first was R 22078, a a resolution authorizing a lease agreement by and between Arvada and the Arvada Community Food Bank doing business as community table for the property located at 8555 West 57th Avenue, beginning December 1st, 2022. Second is a resolution accepting a quitclaim deed from Jefferson Center Metropolitan District Number 2 to the City of Arvada for permanent water line easements. Third one's a resolution establishing a housing advisory committee. And the fourth is a resolution approving an agreement by and between the City of Arvada and Davis Block LLC for the grant of a revocable encroachment license to accommodate a landing pad for a pedestrian entrance within public right-of-way at 5616 Old Wadsworth Boulevard. Mr. Marriott?
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that consent agenda items R22-078, R22-094, R22-095, and R22-096 all be approved.
Motions for approval? Votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have resolutions. First is Resolution R22097, a resolution authorizing the First Amendment by and between the City of Arvada and Urban Drainage and Flood Control District doing business as Mile High Flood District in the amount of $200,000 for final design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction of drainage and flood control improvements for Ralston Creek at Ward Road. Ms. Gillis?
Mayor and Council, the purpose of this project is to construct bridge widening and channel improvements along Ralston Creek at Ward Road. The City of Arvada and Mile High Flood District plan to partner on this joint effort to widen or replace Ward Road Bridge and increase flood conveyance and capacity. Council action is requested on the attached resolution authorizing the First Amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between Mile High Flood District and the City of Arvada regarding final design, right-of-way acquisition, construction of drainage and flood control improvements for Ralston Creek at Ward Road. The Arvada team recommends that City Council approve R22097.
Open up for City Council questions or actions. Ms. Smith, you're first.
I'll make the motion if.
You may proceed.
All right. I move that R22-097, a resolution authorizing the First Amendment by and between the City of Arvada and Urban Drainage and Flood Control District D/B/A, Mile High Flood District in the amount of $200,000 for final design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction of drainage and flood control improvements for Ralston Creek at Ward Road to be approved.
Motions for approval. Votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have R22098, a resolution authorizing the Second Amendment by and between the City of Arvada and Urban Drainage and Flood Control District doing business as Mile High Flood District in the amount of $450,000 for final design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction of drainage and flood control improvements for Ralston Creek at Croak Canal. Ms. Gillis?
Council, the purpose of this project is to collect and direct flood flows in Ralston Creek upstream of the Croak Canal to an existing crossing structure at Ralston Creek and the Croak Canal crossing. This project will help prevent flood flows from entering the Croak Canal irrigation canal, and therefore help downstream Arvada properties from being flooded due to irrigation canal overtopping. Council action is requested on the attached resolution authorizing the Second Amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between Mile High Flood District and the City of Arvada regarding funding for final design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction of drainage and flood control improvements for Ralston Creek at Croak Canal. The Arvada team recommends the City Council approve R22098.
Open up for City Council questions or actions. Ms. Simpson,
I'll make the motion if there are no questions.
you may proceed.
I move that R22-098, a resolution authorizing the Second Amendment by and between the City of Arvada and the Urban Drainage and Flood Control District doing business as Mile High Flood District in the amount of $450,000 for final design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction of drainage and flood control improvements for Ralston Creek at Croak Canal be approved.
Mr. Marriott, did you wish to
I
speak
did.
to
I
the
just wanted to
motion?
make a comment. Both the previous resolution and this resolution both pertain to Mile High Flood District, which all of us pay a very, very small property tax increment into over the whole district, which literally contains the whole metro area. And it's a perfect example of probably some of the best intergovernmental cooperation. These projects, which are much-needed flood projects in Arvada, are paid for half by Arvada and half by the flood district, which of course we pay into. But it's really a great example of how both your government as well as other levels of government, including special districts, work together to come out to the best outcomes for all of those. So for those reasons, I'll certainly be voting yes.
All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. Our third resolution tonight is R-22-099, a resolution authorizing a waiver and reduction of a portion of the water tap fee for the cottages at Ralston Fields development. Ms. Gillis?
Council, the Cottages at Ralston Fields is a proposed residential development at the northeast corner of West 58th Avenue and Miller Street. The development is a unique residential project that includes townhomes, duplexes, and single-family residents arranged around 4 courtyards, with the majority of parking provided in a surface lot around the perimeter of the property. Specifically, the development consists of 24 single-family units, 16 duplex units, and 24 townhome units. The size of these units range from 870 to 1,170 square feet. Under the current code, the development would be assessed tap fees based on multifamily, duplex, and single-family unit cost. Given that the townhomes are treated as multifamily for the purpose of assessing tap fees, the project would result in 24 multifamily tap fees, 24 single-family tap fees, and 16 duplex fees. Based on the size of the units and the density of the project, the developer has requested that all 64 units within the development be treated as multifamily for the purpose of assessing water tap fees. Under Section 102-162 of Article 2 of Chapter 102 of the Arvada City Code, permits City Council to waive or reduce water tap fees upon finding determination by the City Council that such waiver or reductions is based on the best interest of the city. The Cottages at Ralston Fields preliminary development plan was unanimously approved by Council on July 6, 2020, under case number DA 2019-0134. The Arvada team recommends City Council approve R-22-099.
I'll open it up for City Council questions or action. Ms. Simpson, you're first.
I'll make the motion if there are no questions.
You may proceed.
All right. I move that R-22-099, a resolution authorizing a waiver and reduction of a portion of the water tap fee for the Cottages at Ralston Fields development, be approved.
Motions for approval. Mr. Marriott?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to make a comment here. I'm not so sure that this is necessarily the wrong thing to do to have a little more detail to our tap fee structure. But in this particular case, I'm a little uncomfortable with this particular way of going about it. I do believe this will be a nice development, but I think we probably shouldn't be in the business of legislating these one at a time. I would much rather see us in the future at some time have maybe a more detailed discussion about this. So not to be against this development or anything like that, but just this method by which we're taking a stab at changing tap fees for just a project but not anything else. I'll be a voting no on this particular one.
Thank you. Mr. Pfeiffer?
I think I did have a question, but I might have been too late to ask the question. But I
Go ahead. You can still ask.
Well, it's actually for Ryan. Did the housing stock change on this?
Excuse me, the housing stock, meaning the total number of
Because they were
units?
supposed to be like mini homes, miniature homes, and now we have townhouses and duplexes. And
I think that the mix has always been the same and the size has been the same. Our planner, Jake Nichols, is here, who can ask specific questions, but this is generally consistent with the PDP that was approved, which is a requirement of the PDP. I think the housing sizes changed a little bit by design and through engineering, through the FDP process. But the unit count and the general mix, I believe, is all the same. I think the elevations and the final sizes were refined a little bit through the FDP process. Am I getting that right, Jake? Okay.
You know, I struggle with this one. I see how this is a little confusing because, I mean, for me, I mean, we don't clearly say in this presentation, you know, we talk about the size, but if I remember the hearing correctly, it was around these mini homes and these small little pocket-sized homes around these 4 courtyards. And now I see it says single-family, duplex, and multifamily in there.
Those were all, those were consistent with the
that
PDP.
hearing?
Yes, we had single-family homes at that time, and this was a discussion that was part of the conversation during that hearing. We just needed to bring back this portion of it because that wasn't part of the decision-making at that time. But certainly the single-family homes and the duplexes, some of them they were stacked at the time. I think now some of them are side by side, but those are evolutions that happened when taking into consideration things like single floor living, ADA, those types of things that happen through the FDP process. But the housing mix in terms of single families and those types of things has not changed through this evolutionary process.
Okay.
Ms. Simpson?
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing, Ryan. I remember the stacked homes were originally the duplex, and they were almost designed to look like townhomes, but they were one on top, so now they're side by side. But I do recall there being the little courtyards with what's similar to tiny homes, and that's the 800 some odd square feet. Single families reflected here are basically the tiny homes. And I also recall the discussion of adjusting the fees at that time, and we're just getting to it now. So I'll to Mr. Marriott's point, I'll be a yes vote due to that conversation from 2 years ago. But I do agree with him that I don't think just arbitrarily we should be looking at this case by case, but this is kind of a unique one in the grander scope, and it just is landing at an interesting time, unfortunately. So.
Mr. Pfeiffer, did you have another question?
Yeah, I do remember the conversation around, and I think the question's for Ryan, the conversation around a tap fee, a different way of handling, because they are kind of like tiny homes or whatever, small homes. And is this, just for edification and catch folks up, and even for myself, is this where we kind of landed, was the multifamily is the best solution for that compromise during that hearing?
So, yes, and the logic behind it is, let's say you took single-family homes at a suburban scale, which we're more used to seeing, larger homes, 3,000 square foot in the lots, and you spread that over the 2.5 acres or so, you're going to get 10 homes or less, right? Not that many homes. So your tap fees are going to be spread out over that for 10 homes, but all single-family. This is, I think it's 64 units that are much smaller.
A couple acres.
It's, one of the things I was talking to Jake about was that this is basically like a multifamily development with the hallways that are outdoors. Yeah. It's a very dense product that you wouldn't necessarily see, and it's reflected of that with a lot of surface parking that you'd see at multifamily, and a lot more density that you would be. So this is a way of kind of compromising and utilizing that site in a very unique way, and that was part of the discussion, that this is acting more of a multifamily development, but giving some of the amenities that you would see with single-family homes, just much smaller. These homes are, as was mentioned in the staff report, 700 to just over or just under 1,200 square feet.
Yeah, and I remember the conversation around the tap fees being reduced. I just didn't know where we landed, and this is where we
land. This is 100% exactly of what was described at that time. We haven't changed anything from what we described 2 years ago.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation and taking back, a couple of years or however long ago was the conversation. But this was a hard one for me as well, as I kind of thought through this and the timing of this, and I'd have to tend to agree with Mr. Marriott and his the comments that he made, and so I voted no. Just again, I think there's a timing issue on this, and I think I think that's the right answer. So thank you.
That passes 5-2 with Mr. Jones and Mr. Marriott voting no for the reasons stated. Very good. Go on to first readings. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Your Honor. There are 6 first readings tonight. First, Council Bill 22-079, an ordinance amending Article 1 in general and Article 2 civil emergency, or local disaster regulations of Chapter 26, civil emergency, or local disaster of the Arvada City Code, Council Bill 22-080, an ordinance authorizing an additional appropriation for fiscal year 2022. 3, Council Bill 22-081, an ordinance repealing and reenacting Article 5, cross-connection control program of Chapter 102 utilities of the Arvada City Code. Council Bill 22-082, an ordinance repealing, retitling, and reenacting Section 58-1, powers of judge of Article 1 in general of Chapter 58, municipal court of the Arvada City Code, and repealing certain other provisions of Article 1, Chapter 58. Council Bill 22-083, an ordinance amending Section 98-70, exempt sales, and repealing and reenacting Section 98-78, exemptions of Article 3, sales and use tax of Chapter 98, taxation of the Arvada City Code. And finally, Council Bill 22-084, an ordinance amending subsection 102-34 of Section 102-34, application for services and the payment of fees of Article 2, Chapter 102, utilities of the City of Arvada, of the Arvada City Code, all be approved on first reading, ordered published in full, and public hearing date set for December 5th, 2022 at 6:15 p.m.
Motions for approval on first reading. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have a notice of correction to the amended and restated service plan for Sabell Metropolitan District Number 2, dated November 18th, 2019, in order to clarify certain inconsistencies. Ms. Gillis.
Council, this item provides a notice of correction to the amended and restated service plan for the Sabell Metropolitan District Number 2, dated November 18th, 2019, in order to clarify certain inconsistencies, namely to correct it to read shall not instead of shall in the third paragraph of Section 1 of 6 financial plan. The item also provides notice that the corrected and amended and restated service plan is to be considered effective as of November 18th, 2019, as the corrected language was the intent of both the district and the city when it was passed on that date. Should you have questions, our city attorney's office can assist.
And for legal counsel, no action is necessary. This is just public notification.
That is accurate. Since it is essentially a scrivener's error, we have the ability to correct that. However, given the passage of time, my thought here was that in order to be as transparent as possible with the public about the correction that we're making, we wanted to put it through the process to give the public notice, but also to allow city staff to track that in the future, track that correction in the future.
Very good. Okay, with that, we're now moving to public hearings. I will open the public hearing on R-22067, a resolution setting forth certain findings of fact and conclusions as to the annexation of certain land into the city of Arvada, Colorado, Union Estates property, a 2.11 acre parcel of land generally located at 12016 West 82nd Avenue. Same time, we'll consider Council Bill 22075, an ordinance annexing certain land into the city of Arvada for Union Estates property, a 2.11 acre parcel of land approximately located at 12016 West 82nd Avenue, and Council Bill 22076, an ordinance rezoning certain land within the city of Arvada Union Estates property from Jefferson County A2 Agricultural 2 to City of Arvada RN 7.5 Residential Neighborhood 7.5, and amending the official zoning maps of the city of Arvada, Colorado, generally located at 12016 West 82nd Avenue. Ms. Gillis.
Planning Manager Rob Montana will address this topic.
Thank you. As mentioned, the applicant is requesting annexation and rezoning, and that is from Jefferson County A2 to City of Arvada, RN 7.5. And this will allow for the development of a 7-lot, single-family residential project located at the northwest corner of Union and 82nd Avenue. The proposed zoning is consistent with the 2014 Comprehensive Plan future land use map designation of suburban residential. The Planning Commission did vote unanimously to recommend approval of the annexation and rezoning during their July 19th meeting. We have received the signed posting log and mailing affidavit, and they are in order. The applicant is in attendance for presentation and questions, and we also have Senior Planner Carol Ibanez here to answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Very good. Posting log and mailing affidavit will be made part of the record. If you're here to testify in this matter, would you raise your right hand? Swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give in these proceedings to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yes. Very good. You may make your presentation. If you'll state your name and address.
Hello, my name's Steve Lindsay. I'm at 12650 West 52nd Drive in Arvada. We're here to get approval for annexation and rezoning and answer questions if you have questions. Me and my son here are part of Linco Enterprises. We are the builder. This is an aerial of the property right on the corner of 82nd and Union, across from the ball fields, and just an arrow there pointing out. This is our comprehensive plat design that we have, a small cul-de-sac that will come off of Union Street and have 7 lots. And with our detention in the blue there on the right side, or would be the north side of the property. As mentioned, the area is 2.1 acres. We're looking at doing 7 custom homes there. Dwellings per acre at 3.4. The zoning recommendations that are in 7.5 single family with the minimum lot size of 7,500. The average lot size will actually be over 9,000 square feet. Setbacks on the front are 20, side 7.5, and 10 on the rear. This is an example of a rendering of a couple homes that we have designed. This is a true custom home, even though it's small. We're going to let people come in and design their own home versus just a production builder where they come in and only have a plan or two to choose from. But so they're nice plans and appealing to the eye. In conclusion, we feel it's compatible with the allowed uses. All the services are available there. There's adequate access through the right-of-ways and compliant with the comprehensive plan. So I'm available for any questions.
Very good. Do we have anybody else that wishes to testify on this matter? If not, I will close the public comment portion and open it up for City Council questions or action. Mr. Jones.
I don't have any questions.
You may proceed.
Let me get there. I wasn't that fast. I thought someone would ask a question. Okay, here we go. I move that Resolution 22-067, a resolution setting forth certain findings of fact and conclusions as to the annexation of certain land into the City of Arvada, Colorado, Union Estates property, a 2.11 acre parcel of land generally located at 12016 West 82nd Avenue be approved.
Motions for approval. All votes cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. I move that Council Bill 22-075, an ordinance annexing certain land into the City of Arvada for Union Estates property, a 2.11 acre parcel of land approximately located at 12016 West 82nd Avenue, be approved on final reading, numbered 4823, and ordered published by title only. This motion is based on the findings of fact adopted by the Planning Commission.
Motions for approval of the annexation. All votes cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. And the final one?
Finally, I move that Council Bill 076, an ordinance rezoning certain land within the city of Arvada, Union Estates from Jefferson County A2 Agricultural 2 to City of Arvada RN 7.5, Residential Neighborhood 7.5, and amending the official zoning maps of the City of Arvada, Colorado, generally located at 12016 West 82nd Avenue, be approved on final reading and numbered 4824 and ordered published by title only. And this motion is based on the findings of facts adopted by the Planning Commission.
It's a rezoning ordinance. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. Congratulations. Good luck with your project. Next, I'll open the public hearing on the PUD development plan for Tower View Townhomes Phase 2 PDP, generally located at 7801 West 51st Avenue. Ms. Gillis?
Council, I will hand this topic for introduction to Planning Manager Rob Smetana.
Thank you. As mentioned, the applicant is requesting a PUD development plan to construct 9 additional townhome units adjacent to the existing Tower View townhomes located at Yarrow Street and 51st Avenue, or just northwest of that intersection. Access to the new units will be provided through the existing development. Both the existing and proposed townhome parcels are zoned planned unit development. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve the PUD development plan during their September 20th meeting. We have received the signed posting log and mailing affidavit, and they are in order. The applicant is here for presentation and questions, and we also have Senior Planner Jake Nichols for questions as well. Thank you.
Very good. The posting log and mailing affidavit will be made part of the record. If you're going to testify on this matter, if you'll raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Very good. You may make your presentation. Come on down. Never watched it.
Good evening, members of council and Mr. Mayor. Like Rob gave a brief description of the project that we've got, we're kind of across the street from Costco at 51st and Yarrow, and we successfully completed a phase 1 which consisted of 6 buildings and 18 units.
And sir, if you give your name and address for the record.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Mark D. Benedictus. Address is 6020 South Greenwood Plaza Boulevard, Greenwood Village, Colorado, 80111.
Great.
So the construction, as you see up in the rendering there now, is going to be consistent with these 3 units in each building. They're basically about 1,795 square feet each unit. Each one does have an attached oversized 2-car garage. These units are consistent of a TPO roof system, which is a very low maintenance type roof system, which is a 50-year product. Most of the components of the exterior is stucco and stone, so very low maintenance type units. We successfully completed the first phase and closed out the last unit in 2020. And we've had very little maintenance issues with the existing 18 units with the quality of construction that we've built there. So this is kind of a continuation of the 6 buildings there. This will complete the final corner at that Costco intersection there. We feel that this is going to be a great enhancement to the surrounding neighborhoods, and completing this construction of the project is a nice infill residential site. Troy Denning, who's here with Action Civil, has built the phase 1 civil infrastructure And some of the components of Phase 1 kind of rolls into Phase 2 that is a continuation to the east. Troy, did you want to come up and talk about that?
Sure.
Maybe show them the site plan.
Hi, my name's Troy Denning with Action Civil Engineering. My address is 9777 Pyramid Court, Englewood, Colorado, 80112. Could you bring up the site plan, Jake? So the new unit, Phase 1 is the kind of white area on the left-hand side of that, and the new Phase 2 are the 9 units on the right-hand side of that, the smaller 1/3 there. And we are tying into the storm sewer system, which is underground detention. You can see that at the north side of the top of the sheet there. There's some thick dashed lines, that's underground pipes, and we are adding a pipe to that for our underground detention. And then we are also looping our water line, or completing the loop from Phase 1 into Phase 2 and back out to West 51st Avenue. Sanitary sewer will tie into the existing sanitary sewer that is part of Phase 1.
Couple things to note, and also when the construction would commence, we've got a BMP in place for a drive aisle for the construction, kind of at the east corner of Building 1. And I've talked a lot with the existing HOA members and a lot of the community, and kind of staying in touch with them as far as how the drive aisle and the traffic of construction is going to work in the community. And I've gotten a good understanding that they'll be part of that process with us and notified on different various days for construction with equipment mobilization and so forth.
One of the concerns during Planning Commission was construction traffic access would be through Phase 1. That's not the case. All construction traffic access will be off West 51st Avenue. It's kind of up that landscaped aisle between the two phases. There will be some access into Phase 1 to connect to existing underground utilities, but that will be from Phase 2 into Phase 1. We don't need to go into Phase 1 off of West 51st to do that.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, do you have anything else?
Do you have anything else you want to add? Not at this time, Mayor.
Okay, is there any member of the public that would like to address City Council on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion. Open it up for City Council questions or action. Ms. Smith, you're first.
Yeah, I just had a question. With what's already been developed and then what you're developing now, it seems that there's no green space at all. And across the street is a bit of a sea of Costco parking lot, and the closest park seems to be a bit of a distance away. And I'm a little concerned about that. So where are we putting people outside? Where are the dogs going, the bathroom, kind of looking at that kind of quality life?
We are going to have 2 dog stations. One's going to be towards the front of the development, and then on the back side, there's actually a connection trail to your guys' trail connection in the back side of the property. There's kind of we designed a 3-tiered vinyl fencing, and there's kind of an opening way right there where we're going to have a dog station for the pet waste. We do have a pretty good landscape aisle in between the 2 buildings that we did enhance, and worked with planning on multiple revisions to make sure those standards were of what, was expected. And we've got pretty good tree counts And there's a little bit more landscape than we had in the original Phase 1, because we had some courtyards that had a little more concrete to them. So we've opened that up, and there's quite a bit more green space. Is there a landscape plan? Jake, do you have that landscape plan? Troy, you want to come up?
So this plan is rotated with West 51st on the right side, and our phase is on the top of the sheet, and on the south side of our phase, you can see this corridor in there now that doesn't exist at all in Phase 1, and this is all landscaping. There's a trail through there that connects to the open space on the west side of the sheet, and then you could also reach this from Phase 1 to the corridors heading up and down, and also from Phase 2, and then through that corridor, you can get access back to West 51st Avenue. So there's way more landscaping in this phase than there was in Phase 1.
Thanks for sharing that.
Mr. Marriott?
Yeah, I have a question for you. So in reading the notes from the Planning Commission and then looking at your sheets here, directly to the east of this phase, there's actually a pretty good sized parcel of land that's listed as CDOT right-of-way. Between your development and that CDOT right-of-way, are you planning on fencing that or anything like that? Or will there, I notice there is a curb and gutter there.
Yes, Council. We do have an existing fence that was made part of Phase 1. It's a vinyl split rail fence. So we do plan on continuing that all around the property.
Okay.
On the Costco corridor too.
Right, okay. The question I have is with that hunk of ground, you know, being that it's CDOT right away, obviously there's no development to be done there, but who takes care of that? I mean, does CDOT actually do anything there? Or?
So good question. During the Phase 1 construction, I had worked with CDOT used that as part of a staging area, and we did fence that off fully, and we maintained it for CDOT during construction. And then after construction was completed, I met them out at the site, and then from there, they kind of took over the maintenance once we took down all of our construction, silt fence and everything else. They kind of took over from there.
Right. I mean, I guess to me, it looks like such an anomaly, because if you look to the development immediately to the south of you, they have green space that goes all the way to the back of the sidewalk, like you kind of would expect. And even if you look at the school property or the Head Start property directly to the north of you, you know, their fence is in real close proximity to the sidewalk. But here you're going to have kind of a big gap where, you know, it's obviously it's not your property, it's CDOT's property, but
Yes.
but it's actually a relatively large gap of kind of little orphan piece of property that they use for right-of-way. And I'm very suspect that CDOT would do much to maintain that, and just wonder if there's any opportunity for that to remain CDOT right-of-way, but for you guys to have some you know, use of it for your residents, and that the HOA that follows there, then some ability to maintain it. I think Councilmember Smith brought it up, you know, there's not space for a dog to walk or anything like that. And just from the general aesthetics of, as you're driving down the street there, to see that, you know, that gap that will be, you know, not irrigated, and if it's mowed, it'll be mowed just very sporadically at the very best, if at all. And I'm wondering if, as part of this development, if you don't have some ability to positively affect that little orphan piece of right-of-way, you know, into the future, both for the residents of your property, but also to everybody who goes to Costco and everybody who drives down the street, that sees a much better situation than these plans will kind of show that it would be.
I mean, there's something I could possibly talk with CDOT and provide, you know, an additional landscape plan and see if they would help participate in maybe some of the cost in that. And as far as the irrigation, you know, if the town's open to having some more like xeriscape type materials in those areas, I mean, that's something we could consider as part of our cost on our landscape plan that we've got now with the fencing, because.
Yeah. I'd love to see you delve into that and look at that as you progress forward, just to
Yes.
try to create a better situation there for your residents and as well as everybody else in the community, everybody, just to not leave anything that's too orphaned. And I don't know what the right answer is. I think, zero escaped is a great idea and nothing wrong with that at all. But I think that would be good. And I think the future home buyers there would benefit from that. It might help you out with some of the sales and help their livability and maybe not hurt CDOT at all and provide a better solution. So anyway, I would just encourage you as you go forward with your further plans to kind of seriously consider trying to do something there besides just having that be an abandoned piece of property right there.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. A lot of it would just be maintained. Like you said, they would just mow it. It'd be kind of like native buffalo grass.
Right,
and,
at best.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, did you ask CDOT if you could buy it?
We had discussions with CDOT back in 2016 when we first started Phase 1, and their pricing was more than we could afford.
I think you should ask again.
I think, timing could work. They knew we were working into the development, and they did work with us on, allowing some staging there for construction. So it's definitely something we could investigate.
Yeah,
and
just go over there and ask for David Fox.
David Fox? Okay, yes.
And then, because there is interest in selling some right away.
Okay.
Especially if it's orphaned, and he used CDOT like 15,000 times in his statement, so I think it's poking the bear over here. But there could be an interest if it's just an odd piece of land that doesn't make sense to the interstate.
Yeah.
They may be interested in just selling you that plot, and then you can do what you want with it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mr. Marriott?
Mr. Mayor, that's the only question I have. I'd like to reserve the motion on this when it comes to that.
You may proceed.
Okay, thank you. I move that the PUD development plan for Tower View Townhomes Phase 2, PDP, generally located at 7801 West 52nd Avenue, be approved. This motion is based on the findings of fact adopted by the Planning Commission.
Okay, motions for approval. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. Good luck on the project and hopefully acquisition of that orphaned piece of CDOT property.
Thank you, Council and Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next, I'll open the public hearing on the 2023 Annual Action Plan for 2023 Community Development Block Grant Funding and the 2023 Human Services Grant Funding. Same time, we'll consider R22-100, a resolution approving the submission of the 2023 Annual Action Plan for the 2023 Community Development Block Grant, CDBG funding, and 22-101, a resolution authorizing the expenditure of City of Arvada Human Services Funding Pool Funds for 2023 to agencies providing emergency help, program assistance, and other assistance to Arvada citizens. Ms. Gillis.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be having someone assist on 10E2, but to start out with Resolution R22-100, this agenda item includes consideration of a resolution that details the allocation for city CDBG funding in the year 2023 and approves the annual action plan submission containing the year 2023 CDBG funding allocations. The city currently estimates 2023 CDBG entitlement to be $450,000. The allocation between services or projects for the $450,000 is summarized as $75,000 in human services, $94,000 in CDBG program administration, and then a total of $331,000 in allocated to the single family home repairs program. The Arvada team recommends City Council approve 22-100. And at this time, looking at Resolution 22-101, Alicia Hassebrock-Tatone is here to summarize the Human Services Advisory Committee recommendation for those funds.
Right.
She's online.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Hasselbeck-Tatone, and I am a proud resident of Arvada. I serve on the Arvada Human Services Advisory Committee, and I'm here this evening in that capacity. Specifically, I'm here to present to you, the City Council, recommendations on behalf of the committee regarding the allocation of $260,000 in budgeted funds. It is my understanding that these funds are to be distributed to qualified nonprofit organizations so that those organizations may provide direct services and/or the coordination of services to assist households in our community. An outreach campaign was initiated in August of this year to inform the public and interested organizations about the availability and application process for city funding of qualified programs to assist low and moderate income households. As in previous years, the Human Service Advisory Committee received the grant request in September. Committee members reviewed the applications based on the following criteria: identified need, budget reasonableness, benefit to Arvada and its citizens, leveraging other funds, agency experience, duplication of services, collaboration with other agencies, measurable outcomes, program sustainability, and the alignment with City Council strategy. The committee met on September 29th to review the findings and came to a consensus with the following recommendations. The committee is not recommending funding for Angel Eyes at this time. The other 16 applicants are recommended for funding as follows: $40,000 to Community Table for Emergency Food Assistant Programs, $28,000 to Jeffco Action Center, DBA, the Action Center, for rental assistance, homelessness prevention, and family stabilization services, $25,000 to Community Table for Client Financial Assistance Program, $20,000 to Ralston House for Child Advocacy Services, $20,000 to Caring Clinic for Arvada Health Project for Children, $20,000 to Hope House Colorado for GED and College and Career Program, $20,000 to Beyond Home to provide services to homeless families, $17,000 to Project Angel Heart for home delivered meals for critically ill, food insecure Arvadans, $15,000 to Family Tree for homelessness programs, $15,000 to Jefferson Center for mental health and substance abuse services for indigent Arvada residents, $12,000 to Volunteers of America for Meals on Wheels, $8,000 to CASA of Jefferson and Gilpin counties for Jeffco's Youth Alliance program, $8,000 to a Precious Child, Inc. for Precious Essentials and Babies for Babies, $8,000 to CASA of Jefferson and Gilpin counties. I'm sorry, I think that is I'm repeating myself there. $5,000 to Audio Information Network of Colorado for bringing print to life in Arvada. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there any other member of the public that would like to address City Council on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing portion. Thank you to our advisory committee in terms of Human Services Advisory Committee. You do great work for us every year, and we appreciate your taking the time and effort on these. Do I have Mr. Pfeiffer?
I have a question, and I'd like to reserve the motion if there's any.
You may proceed.
So is that CASA of Jefferson and Gilpin counties a duplicate, or are we giving them twice? Does anyone know that? No. Somebody want, if we can do it.
Carrie Espinoza is also online virtually, and I'm wondering if she can help with a clarification. Thanks, Carrie.
Yes, Councilmember Pfeiffer, that is a duplicate. We're not funding them twice. I apologize for that.
Okay. Okay, then if there's not any questions, I'll go ahead and make.
Ms. Smith has a question.
Oh, never mind.
Shocking, I know. I'm sorry. It's just, I had a question on the applicants. Were there any new applicants from the year before? Or are these all repeat? Or are there any new ones?
They are mostly repeats. Angel Eyes they applied 2 or 3 years ago. They did not apply last year.
Okay. Is there a reason why Angel Eyes was the only one that wasn't selected?
Alicia, do you remember the reason for Angel Eyes? If not, Lisa, or Councilmember Smith, I can look that up and get back to you on the reason why.
And last question is, of all the requested funding, was any of them given the max amount requested?
Yes. I believe there were 2 or 3, one of them being the community table, who received the maximum amount requested.
Okay.
And I can share with you the amounts requested with the awarded amounts, if you'd like to see that comparison.
That's okay, thank you.
Ms. Fiver?
Carrie, we used to get that where they asked and what we gave. We used to get a little chart with this. So maybe in the future, add that because it's good for us to know that did we fund them in full or not. And I know we used to do that in the packet. So maybe next year we can do that.
Absolutely.
I'll go ahead and make the motion if there's not any other questions.
You may proceed.
I move that resolution 22-100, a resolution approving the submission of the 2023 annual action plan for the 2023 Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG funding, be approved.
Motions for approval. All votes cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you.
I move that resolution 22-101, a resolution authorizing the expenditure of the City of Arvada Human Services funding pool funds for the 2023 to agencies providing emergency help, program assistance, and other assistance to Arvada citizens be approved.
Motions for approval. That also passes 7-0. Thank you. And again, thank you to the Human Services Advisory Committee. We've really appreciated their work. It takes it out, frankly, from the political process. We all have our pet projects and things that we work with, and it's nice to have. They've got a good matrix, and they review these, and so we tend to follow their recommendations once they're submitted to us. With that, I will open the public hearing on Council Bill 22077, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Arvada, Colorado Water Enterprise Revenue Bond Series 2022. Ms. Gillis.
Council, the infrastructure work system has been updating financial strategies to support utility infrastructure, and specifically strategic result number 3, the water, sewer, and stormwater master plans for their implementation. The financial strategies include plans to issue a bond for water infrastructure. If approved by the City Council, the bond issue will increase water enterprise revenue debt by approximately $50 million, with annual payments of approximately $2.6 million for 30 years and a total maximum repayment cost of $80 million. The source of the payments, principal and interest of the bonds, is revenue from water customers along with system development charges. The team is requesting Council authorize issuance of the revenue bonds to fund these projects.
Very good. I'll open it up for public comment on this matter. Do we have any public comment? Not at this time. I'll close public comment. Mr. Mormon?
I would like to reserve the motion.
Mr. Marriott, do you wish to speak?
I have a
at this
question.
point? Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead
just
with your question.
I have a question to probably our financial team, maybe Mr. Archer. The makes me a little nervous to be bonding in this interest rate environment, but it also makes me a little nervous to not be bonding in this interest rate environment because it might go up. The question I would have is, with this type of bonding, what's the refinanceability of this if we were to slide back to a very low interest rate environment like we've had in the past?
So unfortunately, that was changed just a few years ago. And so I'm going to look to my experts over here. I think you can do that once after 10 years. Is that correct, Amy?
Right, okay. Makes me even more nervous, but thank you.
The challenge is we certainly understand interest rate risk and spoke to that, but we're up against the timing challenge here. And so while we're not issuing all of the proposed debt, we have to issue what is in this to meet our deadlines with everything else. So
Well,
we
and-
certainly wish this was 2 years ago, we understand. but-
Yeah, well, and you know, there's just as good a chance the interest rates going forward may be higher, so it's risky to not do it, and of course, you know, getting the work done is the key, so anyway, thank you.
And then, Mr. Moen, go ahead and make your motion.
I move CB 22-077, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Arvada, Colorado Water Enterprise Revenue Bond, Series 2022, be approved on final reading numbered 4825 and ordered published in full.
Motions for approval. I've got a question for legal counsel. It's my understanding that we continue to have some issues with JCMD pertaining to this. This does not preclude ongoing discussions with them.
It does not.
Thank you. All votes are cast. That motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Next, I'll open the public hearing on the final matter tonight, Council Bill 22078, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Arvada, Colorado Wastewater Enterprise Revenue Bonds, Series 2022. Ms. Gillis?
Council, the infrastructure work system has been updating financial strategies to support utilities, infrastructure, and specifically strategic result number 3, the water, sewer, and stormwater master plans for their implementation. The financial strategies include plans to issue a bond for wastewater infrastructure. The wastewater master plan identified projects required to add capacity for plan development and to reinvest in existing infrastructure. If approved by City Council, the bond issue will increase the wastewater enterprise revenue debt by approximately $50 million, with annual payments of approximately $2.6 million for 30 years and a total maximum repayment cost of $80 million. The source of payments, principal and interest on the bonds, is revenue from the wastewater customers along with system development charges.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And recommendation for approval from the
Correct.
team. Got it. Is there any member of the public that would like to address City Council on this matter? Yes, ma'am. If you can come down to the podium.
Hi. Thank you to the members of the council. My name is Kim Sperry. I'm the managing director of Rangewater Real Estate. We're a multifamily investment and development company. And we have lots 4, 5, and 6 of Candelas Medical Filing number 1 under contract, and are proposing to develop 379 rental units, combination of apartments and townhomes. We are in favor of the bond issuance, both the water and the sewer. I'd like to comment on the ordinance, specifically the system development charges. We appreciate the intent of council's action a few weeks ago to defer the implementation to July 1st. But for projects such as ours, it does not provide a path for us to pay our fees prior to July 1st. That's for a few reasons. Due to the complexity of our project, we have 18 buildings requiring 18 separate permits. The permitting process is such that we need to install the fire loop and the fire access road before we can pull our building permits. And we have approximately 3 months of construction just to get to that point. We believe that pushes the majority of our permits into the 2023 rate structure. And for our project, that has a $4.5 to $5 million impact. And I would tell you that renders our project unfeasible. So like a previous party that commented, puts our project in pretty serious jeopardy. So we submitted a letter last week, November 3rd. I respectfully request that you read and consider it. Our request is effectively to grandfather the rates under the 2022 schedule for various reasons that we outline in the letter, but largely due to time in the queue. So we submitted our pre-app originally in September of 2020. Our first site development plan in December of 21. 2 subsequent submittals this year and are preparing our 4th site development plan submittal right now. I think the other thing we would ask you to consider is if you look at the combined impact of the fees of our project alone, in terms of tap fees, permit review fees, use tax, et cetera, it's almost $7 million in the first year. That provides the certainty of really repayment stream for what I understand to be about $5.2 million in current, interest obligations in year 1. So we, again, request that you take our letter under consideration, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion and open up for City Council questions or action. Ms. Smith,
I'll make the motion.
you may proceed.
All right, I move that Council Bill 22-078, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Arvada, Colorado Wastewater Enterprise Revenue Bond, Series 2022, be approved on final reading numbered 4826 and ordered published in full.
Motions for approval. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. Do we have any other public comment tonight? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion. We had a couple of our citizens make comments earlier about Nancy Young, and we were all shocked to hear of Nancy's passing. Nancy was a very regular attendee of our city council meetings. She did indeed sit in the audience, took diligent notes, reported back to a number of different groups with regard to what was going on, not just here at City Council, but also the Planning Commission. Also the Urban Renewal Authority. There were times that Nancy and I did not see eye to eye, but one thing we always saw eye to eye on was our mutual respect and love for this community. Nancy was a true historian who knew more about Arvada history than I think any other living person in our community at this point in time. So we have really lost a treasure. She and I did not agree politically on a number of things. She took me to task on things she disagreed with, and yet she did it in a very, I think, professional manner. And over time, we developed, I think, a mutual respect. And so I am very saddened at her passing, and would ask that we all keep her memory with us, and that our friends at the Historical Society have lost a great champion, and I'm sure they will recognize her as they deem appropriate. Mr. Marriott?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to weigh in on that, too. Nancy and I were neighbors. I would see her periodically when we'd go for a walk through the neighborhood, and developed a relationship with her very early on when I first ran for City Council. And we actually agreed on more things than we disagreed on, which might sound hard to believe. But the things we did disagree on, we had healthy discussions and debate on, and Nancy was always forceful and strong in her opinions, however exceptional in wanting to have good outcomes for our community. I'll particularly miss the times we would go have 2- and 3-hour lunches and talk about wide-ranging topics, not just politics in Arvada, but many other things. And you hate to see people like her pass. They really are the part of the strength of our community, and I really wish her family well in this tough time.
Ms. Simpson?
Yes, I just wanted to weigh in. So I got to know Nancy first 3 years ago when I was running for office. She was wonderful in helping flesh out some of the history of the city. I think, for us who are non-natives, it's particularly valuable. But even for those who are natives, she definitely knew a thing or two to always tell you. She was generous in her spirit with her knowledge and with her opinions, although I enjoyed the frankness quite a bit. And I just appreciated her civic-mindedness, her involvedness here in the community, and her passion for Arvada, not just its past, but also its future. Nancy had ideas about ways to keep the past alive, to keep our city rich and our heritage alive for future generations. And I truly hope that we are able to carry those forward in her memory.
Mr. Mormon.
Thank you, Mayor. While I don't know Nancy have not known her as long as many of you have, I did get a chance to meet her and, of course, see her every week here in City Council. So I know that we will all be missing her on our during our council meetings. I did get a chance to have coffee with her once right after I got elected, and it was a very, she really educated me on the history of Arvada and had, of course, some many important issues that she wanted to bring up and alert me to, and I certainly appreciated that conversation. And while I could only give her an hour at that time, and I had to really try to excuse myself and request that we meet again, unfortunately, we did not get a chance to meet for a second time. So I'm saddened by that, and again, just saddened that we've lost a big pillar in our community.
Thank you all. Ms. Gillis?
We have 2 workshops next week, one on the Old Town reinvestment and the other on the pilot program results for shared micromobility.
Thank you. Ms. Morris?
Nothing from me, Your Honor.
Very good. We stand adjourned. Thank you all.